Welcome, everybody, to the Business Divas Facebook group. And today we are going to have a chat with Lizzie Jefferson. Now, Lizzie, one second here, and I will introduce her. Lizzie has worn many hats and identified with any number of labels, her favorite of which include book nerd, copy editor, writer, story crafter, mama to little learners, advocate for your best life, and absolute word geek. I absolutely love that one, by the way. Lizzie believes that words hold the transformative power to ignite change in our world, in our communities, and in our own heads and hearts. For over a decade, she has applied her personal brand of word work to advising authors, educators, entrepreneurs as they craft and share the stories that matter. Welcome, Lizzie.
Thank you, Dotty. I'm so glad to be here.
So you were saying in a conversation we had before everybody was listening in here that one of the things that you do is you help freelancers kind of change their way of thinking around the whole concept of freelancing versus owning a business versus being self-employed. Can you elaborate on what that means for freelancing?
Yes. So a lot of times when I speak to a freelancer who's just starting out or someone who is looking to get into a side hustle or even a full-time freelancing gig, they're excited. The things I hear are things like, ooh, I've got to get my resume ready, or ooh, self-employment is hard. And so what happens is they get in this mindset that they are the employee of another person and they start chasing jobs and they start filling their space with that, clinging to whatever jobs they can get. And the successful freelancer approaches things a little differently. So in my space, in my experience, success comes when you shift your mindset and you become a business owner. You are a freelancer. You are a person with a magic power, a secret sauce, a sellable skill that someone really needs. They require that skill of you. You are not employed by them. You are providing a service. And so when freelancers start to shift that mindset, that's when they become successful. That's when they say, look out world, this is what I have to offer. And they start attracting the clients that pay and that kind of fit their mindset and who they can best serve in the world.
Yeah. So what advice do you have to help a freelancer make that mind shift?
I think the first thing to do, and there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. I'm going to tell you, it took me a good 8 years to shift my mindset, and I've been doing this for over a decade, but it took a long time to kind of shift. And I had the business and I had the brand, but I was like, ooh, I got to get that job. I got to get on that platform. Will they like me? And I think the difference is you start from building your brand. You figure out who you are, you figure out what you're selling, and you're figuring out who you want to sell that to, right? And so, I mean, that's any business, any online business, any course creator. You got to know your audience, but you also have to know who you are. Because if you don't show up as you, you're going to either disappoint people or be miserable in the end result. And so that would be what I would say. Figure out what you want to do and who you are in your brand, and that will help you be the best freelancer you can.
That is some great advice there, Lizzie.
Thanks,
So you
Dottie.
had mentioned that there are different platforms that you are
Yes,
on and that you, I guess, encourage freelancers to be on. Can you share what those are?
sure. So first, let me say this. When another thing that people do when they start their freelance journey is they go to the big platforms. They go to Upwork, they go to Fiverr, they go to freelancer.com, and there are all kinds of other ones now. And I want to say this as a caveat. Those freelance platforms were started to match talent with people who needed it.
Mhm.
What they've become is a place for businesses of all sizes to go to find the cheapest, most efficient way to get the job done, right? So if you think about when you need something done really quick, Maybe it's like a graphic or something. You go, oh, I'm going to go to Fiverr and have someone do that for me really cheap. So again, it comes down to mindset. I think platforms are a great way to kind of boost your ego a little bit, maybe pad your resume a little bit or your portfolio. But my brand of freelancing strays away from those, and actually goes more towards building your brand, finding your people, and advertising, marketing yourself as a business. So I think there are a lot of people, don't get me wrong, who are very successful on those platforms. And I've been successful on those platforms. But I've also, Dottie, let me tell you a little secret. I guess I'm telling the audience. I got fired from Fiverr. I got
Oh,
fired
that's
from Fiverr.
awesome.
I did. Isn't that awful? Like, I was like this big dramatic thing. So I was on Fiverr and I had all of these amazing repeat clients and I was doing all this work. And one of my clients popped in and mentioned that he'd seen me on Upwork, and he somehow put in a phone number or something, and it took those little bots maybe 3 minutes, and my account was shut down and his account was shut down, and I lost every review I had. I lost every contact I had. And so it was a big, like, gut-wrenching moment. It was embarrassing, right? We hate to fail, but it did this great thing for me. It made me square my shoulders. Like I tell my kids every day, we're going to square our shoulders. We're going to face the day. We're going to figure out what's better, right? What we can do best. And so it made me reevaluate the whole way I did my business. And that's when I said, okay, I'm not going to depend on platforms. I'm not going to depend on chasing the job. I'm a business. I have a skill I want to share. I can help people, and I'm going to keep my audience in my space. I'm going to email them. I'm going to reach out to them. And keep them in my circle. And so I do appreciate the platforms. I encourage people to get a little business that way and maybe get their feet wet. But in my brand of freelancing, I love to take people off the platforms and help them build a brand and then find their audience and bring them into their space.
That is so cool. I am so glad that you got fired from there.
I'm a rebel, Dottie. I'm a rebel.
That was probably the best thing that could have
It
happened
was.
to you.
It was.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, as a website designer, people assume that I'm a freelancer. And
Yes.
I kind of did the opposite of you. I started my business, but I've never considered myself a freelancer. And I tried, I think it was Fiverr, way back a long, long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And I hated it. And just like you were saying, they want the cheapest thing. And you know what? I'm not the cheapest person out there. And I'm not
Right.
going to degrade myself to
Right.
get a job super cheap. So I applaud you for.
Well, thank you. And an interesting caveat. So this is actually, it's come full circle. So that same client who got me fired off of Fiverr, we started working together off of the platforms. I raised my rates. I've gotten referrals from them. And I mean, I 10 times the rate I was charging them. And they stayed with me. They give me referrals. I get a lot of business from them. And last night they sent me a case of the best West Coast vineyard wines I could have ever imagined. So see, full circle. It's great stuff.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
that is awesome. So you are a freelancer, but you are more importantly a business owner.
Yes,
Tell us,
ma'am.
I'm assuming that you have something to do with words, according to your bio. Tell us
I
what it
do.
is that you do.
Sure. So when I started side hustling, I actually started working with authors, helping them just do basic copy editing. I loved books. I knew books. I had taken a lot of English in my college years. And I realized that in the self-publishing and indie publishing space, they were getting fleeced when it came to the money they were spending on quality editing. So that's where I started. And then I realized that took me into contact with a lot of business owners, because business owners write books, right? Entrepreneurs write books. These are the people writing books and self-publishing them or indie publishing them. So I started that we would start with a book and I would edit that book, and then they'd say, "Ooh, I really like how you captured my voice. Can you help me with my bio? Or can you help me with my marketing? And what I realized is that it was not the book editing that I loved, it was helping people find their brand voice, find their words to communicate their story. And so I started writing copy and I started working with entrepreneurs and course creators and people out there who were trying to freelance, just anyone who had a business or an important message. I work with a lot of nonprofits. And I found that surprisingly, I thought my superpower was that I was good at grammar. What I found was that what I'm actually good at, what I've been gifted with, is helping people, listening to people and helping them put onto paper what their message is, really hone in on what their message is and find the important words to tell their story. So I am a copywriter now.
That is a great superpower because so many business owners don't have an inkling of what to say. And
Right.
as a website designer, I can attest to that. Sometimes
Yes.
pulling information for their about page is the absolute hardest page on their entire
Yes.
website. And one would think
Yes.
that would be the easiest, but no, it's
Right.
not. Can you tell me, Lizzie, or let me rephrase that. Can you share with the other business owners who are watching today how important copywriting is to their business?
Absolutely. So I think when we think copywriting, we think, ooh, that person who writes a few ads for us or that kind of thing. But copywriting affects every bit of your business. The way you use words matters. You need to use words consistently so that people understand who you are. You need to use vernacular that is familiar to whatever your industry is. So if you're using elevated language that doesn't work for your audience, or you're using language that dumbs it down just a little too much, you're going to lose people. You also need to be consistent with who you are, right? So if what I write is this glorious, verbose, poetic piece, and then I get on screen and I'm like, hey, y'all, I'm so excited to be here, there's a disconnect. And every time we use our words, whether we speak them or we write them, we're helping to bring our audience in and we're helping to convert them from cold audience to a warm audience to a sale, right? So words are what convert, words are what convict, and they're what convert. And so using consistent words, using using certain styles, using certain phrasing is important. It's important to each individual business owner, but then it's also important to each type of copy we're writing. So the way we write a website needs to look a little different than the way we write our social media ads, but then we still have to maintain the same voice so that we're keeping our audience engaged, right? So there are a lot of different ways that you need to take your copy and make sure that it's consistent and true to you. And I'm a big proponent of SEO, and Dotty, I know SEO that's like a love language for web designers. But I'm going to challenge the status quo here and say this. You cannot have good SEO, quality SEO that gets you the right audience if you don't have your branding language, your branding copy nailed down. The SEO comes in once you have your message locked in. And the SEO is like that whipped cream on top that really just convicts people, right? That brings the audience in so they can hear your message. But if your message isn't locked in, they're coming into a page that's not right. They're not going to respond to, right? So I think
I would
those need to
agree
go
with
hand in
that.
hand.
Yes,
Yeah.
and just for those that may not know, SEO stands for search engine optimization. And in the website world, that means how to get ranked in a search engine organically without paying for ads.
Yes.
That
Yes.
is the bottom line.
Right.
And I would agree. If you do not have your website where it needs to be and you're not speaking to the right audience, it is a complete waste of money to go to an SEO company
Yes.
and pay them for optimization when you don't
Right.
have the basics down.
It's like putting up a circus tent and then inviting people into the circus and they get inside and it's afternoon tea. The total expectation is like, why would you want that? They're just going to walk out and probably throw peanuts at you on the way out, right? Like, this is not what you want. So yeah, it's
That
important.
is a great visual. So now that we've talked about what copywriting is and how important it is to anybody's business, can
Sure.
you give us some examples of some really great places that a business owner can use great copywriting?
So you mean like the different ways copywriting is important, like where they should have?
Yes.
Absolutely. So I would start with any place that you bring, like the place you bring your audience to. So if you bring your audience to a website, that website needs to have your branding, your messaging locked in with good quality copy. And then that copy needs to have tell a story that takes them and converts them to wherever you want them to go, whether it's into a lead magnet or an email list or to buy something, right? So there are levels throughout the copy, throughout the story where you grab certain people, like their attention has been grabbed and you can move them along to the next part. But then you need to keep telling the story because some people aren't there yet. So your hub, right? Your sales pages, your website, any other landing pages, all of those places need to have copy locked in. You also need to have that copy locked in on your ads. So any Facebook ads, Google ads, any sort of ads you're doing. And then a place that I think a lot of people discount the importance of copy is their social media posts. Because we've gone to, we dance and we talk and we do all of these things, but think about it. Even in the last 2 years, as we've gone to dancing, pointing, what are we pointing at? We're pointing at words. When we speak, what do they put at the bottom? They put captions because the words matter. The copy matters. And even a caption becomes copy. And so I think one, and Dottie, I'm so excited for your training that's coming up about repurposing things. One of the things that's so great about repurposing content is that it's a same solid, consistent message, right? And so
Mhm.
you've locked in copy and you're using it in different places. But I would challenge you that any place that you're writing things, if you're writing emails, those emails need to have a purpose. Like, don't land in my inbox with an email that isn't well written because I'm going to ignore it. And then the more people ignore your emails, the less opens you get, the more often you end up in that little spam thing because email algorithms are weird and they know things that are scary. So everywhere you go, your subject lines, the copy of your subject lines, it's so important. You got to get them to open it, and then you got them to get them to read it, and then you got to get them to stay there long enough for it to matter. So copy is important everywhere.
Very well said. Thank you. So, can you give us a few tips and tricks how we can
Sure.
step up our game of copywriting?
Absolutely. So the first thing I would do, and this is actually my favorite part when I work with clients, the first thing I would do is tell you to make sure you know what your words are, your style is, right? And I'm talking about everything from you build a word bank, a word shed, as it were, a place to store your words where you can go in there and look and make sure they're really your words. And a great way to do that is either to work with someone who can help you do that to get those words, draw those words out, or if you're trying to do this on your own, you can get a recording transcription type software. There are all kinds of free ones, Otter AI, all kinds of stuff. You turn it on and you just start talking, and you talk in three ways about your business. Talk about, not elevator pitch wise, talk about it like you're talking to your grandma or your mom, because grandmas and moms never know what we're really doing. They're so proud of us, but they have no clue what we actually do. Pretend you're talking to your mom or your grandma about your business. And so set a timer, do that for 3 minutes, and then pretend like you're talking to your ideal client, like that one ideal client that you've always wanted, your dream client. Pretend you're talking to them about your business, and then pretend like you're talking to a complete stranger over coffee. You bumped into them in line at the coffee shop. You're both waiting for coffee. You start talking, and they're like, "Well, what is it you do?" Pretend like you're talking to them. Then take all three of those. This is my favorite exercise. Take all three of those sets of words, go through them and find the consistent words that you use to describe your business. And that's a great foundational place to start your word branding. So you get your word bank in order. That's a great way to start your copywriting. There's actually, every copywriter out there is going to give me the stink eye for saying this, but there are some decent AI softwares out there. If you are strapped and you just are not great at copy, a great place to start, don't finish here, but a great place to start is one of those AI copy generators. Just put in some ideas, they'll spit some ideas out, and then use that to tighten up what you're doing, right? And then I think the third thing, and this is minor, and again, there are so many other ways that you can subtly change your copy, but the third thing would be make sure you're consistent. I'll use y'all as an example, but someone started saying y'all, and all of the mompreneurs on the internet got excited and were like, I can relate to that. So now everyone says y'all. If I said y'all, it would be so inauthentic. And then when people came into my space, I would never say y'all again, but I said it once in this Instagram post. And people would come in here and there would be a disconnect, an automatic disconnect. And they would be like, this is not what I signed up for. So make sure your copy is getting people to yeses and nos, right? Find your voice and use it. And don't change it because there are other words that are more popular out there. I guess that would be my three things I would advise you on.
And that last one really applies to video as well. When I started my video adventure 15 plus years ago, some of the criticisms and comments that I received was about how I spoke, how I dressed, how I looked, all of that stuff. And I realized that how they wanted things to be would not attract my clients, but it would attract people like them that I didn't want to work with.
And this is a thing I preach all the time, Dotty, and I'm so sorry I cut you off.
That is perfect.
I preach, whether it's with my freelancers, entrepreneurs, whatever you're doing, get people to the no. Don't just get them to yes, but get people to no. Because why do you want all this noise over here? People who aren't going to work well with you. Why do you want that? Because you're either going to end up signing them as clients and it's going to be like pulling teeth on both sides because you don't work well together. You're not the right people to work together. Or they're just cluttering up your space and eventually they're going to start saying negative things and that's going to affect your own self-confidence. So get them out of the way early. Like let them know you're not for them. Like let them decide that. Don't try to push people away, but let them go to no. No is an okay. You know what I mean? No is an absolutely beautiful gift for someone to give you. So
that is one of the hardest lessons to learn as a business owner is that you do not want every single client.
No.
And the very first time I fired a client was relieving. It felt so freeing that, you are so right. You are not meant to work with every single person out there.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
So as far as freelancing goes, what are some of the pitfalls that you've come across?
So the big ones that I would say are that first one we kind of talked about, that mindset shift to I don't need to chase every job, right? Another big piece to that, they go in hand, is you don't need to do every type of job. Find what you're good at, right? Find the thing that you're good at and do that thing. And you may find you have other things you can do for that client once you know them and you know their business, but start with the thing you can do. I have spent so much time in my life managing people's social media. I'm not a social media manager. I'm not good at it, but people are like, oh, you're good at copywriting. Do you want to manage my social media? And I'm like, oh, my ego is so inflated by that compliment. Yes, of course I will. And then we're just all miserable, right? So do your thing, do your one thing and do it well. And then maybe you find other things, but do one thing and do it well. And then the other piece to that would be that you need to remember that your best clients are not necessarily way out here, like on the platforms or being pitched to. I mean, that's great. I think it's great if you want to go pitch to Nestle or you want to go pitch to a big fashion brand. If that works for you, that is great. But I think sometimes we worry a lot about where we're going to find a client, and so we try to go big, or we try to go within, like, again, we go back to our mom and our grandma and we're like, "Ma, I know you need my copywriting skills. Let's do this," right? Okay, so the big people are harder to get to, and the people right around you, one, they're not going to pay you what you're worth because they love you, but that's just not normally what they do. And two, there's a personal connection there that maybe you don't want to breach with work. But I tell you what, the magic formula I found is using those people you're close to, the people that trust you, whether it's personally that they trust you or professionally, using them and saying to them, "I'm doing this thing. Here's exactly what I'm doing. Do you know anyone in your circle who might need that service?" So using your circle of influence to build bigger circles of influence. That to me has been so powerful because referrals are so important. The right referrals, right? So that I think we either get MLM-y, right? Where we're like, MLMs are always like, find everyone you know and send them an email. And I have nothing against MLM. I'm wearing Mary Kay right now, but they are like, tell everyone you know what you're doing and then call them 8 times and ask them if they want to sign up. Don't do that. But again, I think we have these gifts, and the people who love us and trust us know we have these gifts, and they can share the fact that we have those gifts with other people they know, right? So I
Yes.
think that that's an easy way to build our following and to build our clientele through quality referrals from people we trust and who trust us. Yeah.
So I want to add a comment to something that you said
Yeah.
just a few minutes ago, and that is that you do the one thing that you do really well, and you don't do anything else. But on
Yeah.
top of that is you make connections to the people that can do those things that you don't do
Yes.
so well, and you
Yes.
build these referral back and forth
Yes.
relationships with other businesses,
Absolutely.
because
I
they
think
will eventually get something that you do well and they can refer you back.
absolutely. And I think we're so, like, we cling to the things that we have because we don't want to lose them. But the richest relationships I've had are those referral relationships where we all help each other, those networks where I can say, I know an illustrator who can help you with that book. I know a web designer who can help you get your website set. Like, that's, it's a synergistic relationship, and it's
Mhm.
important. It's important to moving our clients along. Also, if you say like you said, if you say to one of your clients, "I can't do this, but I know someone who can," you've just served them. Even if you didn't serve them by doing, you served them, right? You served them in a way that gives them what they need. And providing to your clients is how you get more referrals from them as well. So, yeah, anytime you can refer someone to someone who does know how to do something, that's so important. So important.
So we're at the bottom of the hour now. So thank you so much, Lizzie. And it looks like you have a gift that you would like to give people. And we will put a link to that in the chat on Facebook after this publishes live. So, what is the gift? 44 ways you didn't know you could freelance.
Yes, absolutely. So it's just a little guide I put together. I turned 41 this year, really exciting. And so I came up with 41 ways, and then there were 3 bonuses, and I put those in. It's just 44 little ways that you could start freelancing or up your freelancing game. And if you get in there and you see something and it sparks your interest, there's a link to join my Facebook group in there as well. Or there's a link to set up a connection call with me, and we can kind of explore what freelancing looks like for you. Yeah.
Well, that sounds super cool. I think I'll go grab that one myself. So as soon
Thanks,
as we're
Dottie.
done here, we'll get that link into the chat for everybody. And we're just about finished. Is there any final words of advice that you would like to leave our audience with?
I think just be authentic, be yourself, be brave, and do things, right? Do things. Go and do. Stop planning. Go and do. You're going to get it wrong. That's okay. You're going to get fired from Fiverr. That's okay. There are people along the way to help you figure it out. And I'm here Dotty is here. There's a whole group of people out there who are here to help you do what you want to do.